Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mortgage Coaches Training Thursday. So my name is Lori Lytle, and I'll be hosting today's call. What I have prepared today for us to review is a MI comparison analysis. But really what I want to do is our Thursday training is focused on you, our members, and to answer any kind of questions that you may have. So what I would like you to do is open up your question area and write down areas that you want to learn more about, where areas that you might struggle in Mortgage Coach Edge. Is it the fee templates? Is it doing too much data entry? We need to focus on product templates. Things like that. If you can open up that question area and jot some items down that you would like to learn in Mortgage Coach Edge, and I can address it. So I'm looking at our call. We have a few people on it. I see looking for a couple different. Okay, looking at it, we got Kelly with OneTrust. That's an enterprise account. It looks like the rest of you are on individual accounts. If you're on an enterprise account, please go ahead and put in the question area what company you're with, so I'll be able to address those kind of questions for you. So in today's training, what we're going to review is MI comparisons. And with this, it's just not comparing the three products of different ways of providing MI. We're going to dive into the presentation to really understand each of these quadrants here. The monthly payment savings, but diving deep into the savings over a 5-year period. We're going to discuss how we could change the 60 months, the goals, be able to change it to find out exactly which product is the better product for the borrower. And then we'll also discuss the interest in the 15-year period, which also is a variable. Also, you could show not just interest in MI, but you could show principal paid in this quadrant or net worth. So there's a lot of things in this long-term area that you could show to your borrower as well. When we discuss it, we're also going to review the first lien and the 5-year cost, be able to help you with that and explain that to your borrowers, and just go through the details. So with that, as what we want to do first, let me do a little housekeeping, and then we'll dive into the MI comparison presentation. So I want to go into Mortgage Coach Edge for right now, and want to point out the help button. With this help button, it will take you to our support center. Our support center has many video tutorials on helping you create presentation, but it also has this search engine that I want to point out. So if you have any kind of questions, say you're doing a silent second and was curious how to show that. So if you do a search for silent, and you can see how different tutorials will come up discussing that particular topic. I also want to point out our monthly calendar of events as well as our coaching call archive. All our Tuesday calls are hosted on our coaching call archive as well as the training Thursdays. But to view the monthly events calendar, I want to point that out. We do have a special event coming out today, and it is giving an overview of our Optimal Blue integration. So we have that listed, and you have all your other training courses that we hold throughout the week listed here for you to be able to attend. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into the MI comparison. So with the total cost analysis, in this particular case, we're comparing 3 products. Our 3 products we're going to compare is monthly MI compared to lender paid MI versus single premium. So you can see I'm highlighting the different fields, and the way I'm doing that is just by taking my mouse over the title and left clicking. That highlights the whole column. If I only want to highlight single fields, say I want to point out the difference in interest rate, you could see how I'm just highlighting those fields. I also want to go ahead and share this link with you as well. And if you look in the lower right-hand corner, that's a quick way of getting the link. If you press share, you could go ahead and grab the link, make a copy, and I'm going to place it in my chat area. You could go ahead and click on that link and open up and view the presentation as I'm reviewing it with you, and you can see how the borrower views that presentation as well. You'll also notice in that share that we have a new feature where you could go ahead and directly email that link to your borrower. So if you clicked on it, it would go ahead and open up your email and place your link to your presentation within the body of your email, and then you could just finish up the email as you normally do. So that's a new feature we have. It's rather quick and easy to create that email from your desktop. just as it is easy to share the presentation from your mobile device. So now let's go ahead and just see the differences with our loan and what we're comparing. You can see our purchase price is the same for all of them, as well as I kept the down payment the same, so we could compare similar apples to apples type of presentation. It's easy to do the apples to apples in this purpose, because this way I'm able to really explain, and you can see those and learn a little easier when everything is apples to apples. So with that, we're also showing an interest rate on monthly mortgage insurance of 4.125. The lender paid, I've increased it slightly, and it's 5%. And then for the single premium, I have it exactly the same as the monthly MI, but we remove the monthly cost of MI and include a single premium, and I have that included in the cash to close. So now if you look at the cash to close line, you can see how it's a little bit higher for that single premium. You can also take that single premium and add it to the loan amount, and they could pay for that amount that way. So just to be able to keep the loan amounts even, I added it to my cash to close. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and clear out my highlights. And let's talk about mortgage insurance and the payment stream, just so you can see on the presentation that you could go ahead and click on these buttons for the payment stream. You can see how I have MI for 83 months, and then the remainder of the loan, the MI has been dropped. This is also a great way to confirm that you've keyed in your FHA MI correctly, because you should see it for the life of the loan. So when you come in the payment stream and you see something short as this, your MI for FHA would be incorrect. So just want to point out, this is just a great way to touch base just to make sure your data is correct. So you can see how my lender paid as well as my single premium do not have any MI on that. I also want to point out in the lower left-hand corner how it says 0 viewers. When people click on the link that I placed in the chat area, you'll also notice that the number of views will go up. This will help you know that your borrower is viewing the presentation with you, and you can see it right there. And it could be also that they have multiple people viewing it. You can have more than one viewer at it on a time. So now let's go ahead. We took care of the summary section here. Let's dive into the more info button real quick. And this is where you find the details of your loan. So you have your payment breakdown. You can see how we have the sales price. We provide the P&I payment as well as your monthly costs. So you can see with the mortgage insurance, I have mortgage insurance on my first product and none on my other two. Now if we move on to our closing cost details, this is where we have our fees, down payments, LTVs, information like that. So with that, you can see I have my down payment, it's even for all of it, and I have an LTV of 90%. So you can see how we have everything apples to apples. So now with that, we lump sum our fees. You can provide it as a lump sum, but you can see I've also used our fee details. So in our fee details, you can see all the fees that are being listed here. You can see if fees are being paid to the seller, APR fees, or prepaid escrow, or if you're doing the refinance, you can mark them and you can see that they would all be included in the finance charge. I also want to point out some new items on the presentation, this lower light blue area. This is where you can also now see your point percentage as well as the upfront premium if you have that. So I want to point out those two as well as earnest money if you use that field. So I want to point out, so we're moving on from our fee details. Also want to point out that upfront premium amount. So you can see, point out to your borrowers that additional cost for the premium, and it's right here in the upfront premium. And let's go look at that fee details to see in that light blue area where it's also displayed. So point out, and then if we had our points, it would have shown here. If you have any questions on the fees or how to develop fees, when we go into the products, we can talk about developing fee templates. And so if you have any questions on that, go ahead and place it in the question area. The next area, the last tab in the summary area, is your reinvestment strategy. So in a reinvestment strategy, what we're going to do is go in here and really make it apples to apples by reinvesting the savings that we have on each of the products. What we're also going to do is reinvest the mortgage insurance once it has been dropped for the loan. So even though we're preparing this MI presentation, we're also going to dive into the reinvestment strategy with you. And so you'll be able to show a borrower how they can pay off their mortgage sooner, become debt-free, or be able to provide them information on how to accumulate savings through an investment account. So different areas in that reinvestment strategy screen that we'll be able to review. So now let's talk about the quadrants on the right-hand side. It's very simple, the top one. It's just your monthly payment savings, and it's a great way to be able to just see it in a graphical format. They don't have to add that payment to find out what the difference is. They could just see it here rather quickly in their monthly costs. So if we go over into the monthly info, it just has the breakdown of the mortgage and also the MI here. But if you had a second lien, and I also have an 80-10-10 on this product that I'm going to pop up in a little bit, the second lien would also display in this area. And that is also a nice way of coming in really quick just to see what that payment would be, full pity payment, and then the P&I payment for the second lien. So in this area, you have the information there, as well as the property appreciation rate displays, and if you use a tax bracket, it displays here as well. Now we're going to dive into the short-term savings. So with the short-term savings, it's a misconception that a lot of people take the savings, say like 192, that's our monthly savings, and they times it by 60 months. What this quadrant is showing is the savings of the unrecoverable costs. And to explain that, if we go into the more info, I'd be able to show you exactly what that means. So if we go into the more info button, what we do is we take that interest and mortgage insurance that's been accumulating over that 60-month period, we total it, and we have it displayed here. So you can see how with the monthly MI and the single premium, they have the same interest rate, but the single premium doesn't have the mortgage insurance. And you can see how much they're saving on the interest MI total amount over that 60-month period in this line. You can see that the lender paid MI has no MI, has no mortgage insurance, but just that slight interest rate increase, how much more they're paying over that 60-month period. So this is a quick glance, is just seeing that interest and MI over that 60-month period. Now if we jump into our closing costs, we then total the closing costs and we add those two together. Those two items, the interest and MI, as well as the closing costs, are unrecoverable costs. Those are items that are for the mortgage, and you're not going to get a return back from those. So with that, we take the total cost, the total of unrecoverable costs, group that total together, and that's what our comparison is. So the comparison, you can see how we're saving our net savings of the unrecoverable costs between those two products. And it's primarily that single premium is by not having that monthly mortgage insurance. But the question is, which product, depending on their goals, which product is actually the better product? And we're going to dive into that after we go into the report. We're going to change this number and really start taking a look at which is the better product. At 36 months, which is the better product? At 10 years, which is the better product? And that's what you could be able to hold your conversations with the borrower by changing that number. Next, let's just go into the interest and MI paid for the long term. Again, that 15-year mark is a variable in the analysis screen. And when you go into the more info, it just has so much more details in here. So besides the equity that I'm having highlighted right here, we also provide the home value, which is part of that appreciation rate that you keyed in. And it will go ahead and display what that home value would be at the end of the 15 years. We also provide the loan balance at the end of 15 years, how much equity they would have, total amount of principal paid, as well as their total pity payments they paid. So it's a lot of little details in that long-term area that's always nice to know and be able to show you the borrower. So now that we talked about the details on the report, let's go over back to the summary area and discuss the first lien tip. So the first lien tip is a percentage, and it's the percentage of the interest over the life of the loan. You could see with the monthly MI and the single premium, that percentage rate is exactly the same. So with that, you could see how the increase with the higher interest rate, the difference between the products. And that only accounts for interest, and it doesn't count for mortgage insurance or any of the costs. So that's a great way of just comparing how much interest that they would be paying over the life of the loan. And then the 5-year cost is also totaled for you, and this is also numbers that are on your loan estimate that you would be able to help the borrower with their understanding. So the 5-year cost is the total of their principal, interest, MI, and their closing costs. So with that, you have all the information. Let's go ahead and dive into Edge, develop this presentation, and then we'll really dive into the reinvestment analysis and show you how you can pay off this lien much quicker. So now if you go into Mortgage Coach Edge, you could go ahead and, if you're following along, click on New Client. I have my MI comparison right here, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and we'll go ahead and discuss it as we go through. Again, open up your questionnaire if you have any questions regarding the data input, templates, fee templates, product templates. Please put it in the questionnaire, and we'll go ahead and answer those along the way. So with that, you'll have the two radio buttons. You have it for individual that just provides your name, or you can have it as marketing. I'm putting in my friendly name so I know what this presentation was for. Great habit to get into, especially with your open house flyers, knowing which presentation. Also, for those of you who are new, if you want to develop a rent versus own from the same data set, if you click on the button rent, that provides you a rent versus own presentation versus the total cost analysis. As we move on to the next screen, I'm just marking it, purchase a new home. And if you're creating these presentations, this MI comparison, if you do offer this to your borrowers, it's great to have a sample presentation in your arsenal on your mobile, so you would always be able to pull it up and show what you could provide borrowers. So we're going to use a purchase price of $350,000. So I'm just key that in. And with this, there's items you can capture for the affordabilities, but for this particular case, I'm just going to go ahead and move on through the affordability screen and get to my products. So to create this presentation so far, all I had to do is put a name and my friendly name in my client. I marked it a purchase, put in my sales price, and then I jumped to products. So remember, you don't have to fill out every field within Mortgage Coach, but the ones you need to create the presentation. So this one is rather quick, labeling it monthly MI. And with that field here, just remember, keep it to 12 characters, this title. If it's longer than 12 characters, you might, if you're printing, it might push it off the report. So just remember 12 characters for your title. It's not a refinance. For those of you who have product templates already built, you could go ahead and find your conventional product template, and you could go ahead and pull that through. If you don't have any product templates in this area, you could build these out, either taking one that's already there and develop it from that and saving it. Or once you've done a complete presentation, I'll show you at the very end how you could save that as a template. Upfront MI, we'll look at this when we come to our single premium product, but for now we're going to leave it as none. Your purchase price, I went ahead and put at $350. Open up the percent field and put 10% down. I'm using 4 and a 1.25 rate and a term of 360. So it's quick, simple data input. If you're working with an API, those fields directly come over from your API and we'll fill in that area. So now let's go to our closing cost details. We have always been focusing on the closing cost details and itemizing of fees. It has come through our support desk. Sometimes people don't want to itemize, but want to do bulk sum fees, and that's fine too. If that's the case, you would remove all your fees in the closing cost details, apply it to the loan, and then these fields that are grayed out will open up, and you can place a bulk number in these fields if you choose to. Itemizing your fees is always great to be able to provide that transparency with your borrower. So with that, let's go ahead and discuss the details. I went ahead and put in 15 days of prepaid interest. You would want to put what your company requires. Points, I want to talk about the points field. Not only can you put positive, but if you're also using rebates, you can place a negative amount here. So I can always put in negative 0.5. And if you hover your mouse over that, you get the dollar amount. So if you have a rebate, this is one quick way of using that percentage field to go ahead and counterbalance that offset of the rebate with your fees. Now let's move to the closing cost details. And if you're on an enterprise account, go ahead and click on your drop down for your templates and take a look at what has been built. So with that, you could go ahead and pick your fee template and pull it down. So you can see that I have my fee template that I have already brought in. And with that, you might see fees that might be left empty. A lot of times the lender's title fee, companies leave this empty because it's a variable. So if so, you could go ahead and just come in here and enter that dollar amount and just update any other fees along the way. Sometimes if it is an enterprise account, sometimes maybe your branch might have a different processing fee or something slightly different. And if that's the case, most likely you don't want to have to enter that every single time and make sense. So with that, what you would do is modify your details here. So say if my processing fee might have been a little more than what that template provided, I would update that dollar amount, update any other dollar amounts, and then you'll see at the lower right-hand corner, I can now save this as a new template. So if I have any templates that I've already built, bring them down, modify it, and then build your arsenal. So here I could go ahead, Lori's fees, and go ahead and put in today's date. You don't have to put in the date. I do it just so you can see this is the template I built today. If you originate in multiple states, put the state test in there. This way you can start building the tests or your fee templates, and then using that test, it will just narrow down that list. So now that I press OK, I built a fee template, and it's now in my drop-down. So that's how easy it is to build out fee templates. And if your account doesn't have any fee templates at all, the easiest way I find out to build fee templates is to grab your fee worksheet. Your fee worksheet has the fee descriptions, your dollar amounts, and if the fee is an APR fee or not. And that's usually when I'm working with companies, that's what I request. And with that, you would just come in and you'll notice add fee and add custom fee. Add fee just adds a line item, and then you can identify your fee, and then you could select it, put in the dollar amount, mark it as an APR or add to loan. Or if you don't see your fee in that drop-down, we do have a custom fee area. So I notice sometimes the title fees that are coming over are now specific title-courier messenger fee or title-doc prep. If you wanted to be exact, this is where you would put it. So you would just go ahead and put in your description and leave it like. If it was an APR fee, you would mark it as an APR fee. If you're using the percentage field, you can determine if that percentage for the fee is on the loan amount or the sales price. This is how you could determine that calculation through that label. Once I press OK, if you look at your fee, whatever custom fee, it will now be in your drop-down for any future products that you build. So let's go ahead and remove this fee. And if you have any more questions regarding those fees, let me know. We do have the other two products we could review them with and help you develop those fee templates so you can move faster through Mortgage Coach. Now we're in our monthly cost screen. It's just really quick. Open up the percentage, put your percentage estimate for your hazard and taxes. You can also put straight dollars. Open up the percentage to put in your MI amount and your MI cutoff. I've added 2 months reserve for hazard, 4 for taxes, and I'm collecting 12-month premium. Now you'll notice at the very bottom right, this is where you could save it as a template. So if you're building a lot of these products, you want to go ahead and save it as a template. And if you're working with an API, you want to develop your templates because it then will be a 2-stroke process. Enter your title, enter your template, and everything will be there for you. So this product template not only will have my monthly costs, it will also have that fee template I built. So let's go ahead and put in the date so we know that which product code this is, or product template. And then I'm going to press OK. I'm done with this product, and now as I move to my next screen, before we move on, let's go into my drop-down. And because I haven't logged out, it hasn't resorted. So my product is at the very base. So you can see how I just created a new product, and I can use this for my next product or any future presentations. So with the second product, the easier way, and I'm going to go ahead and override this information so you can see how this function works. If you use the copy from button, the copy from button will allow you to copy from products that are already built. So if I do use that drop down, you could see how I could copy off the monthly or the single premium. I also mentioned I had an 80-10-10 there. You could see it in the display. So I'm going to copy from the monthly MI and press OK. And it just copied over all that data from my first product. You can see my interest rate has been overridden with that lower rate. So I would just come on in here, update what is different from this product, which is my interest rate. I move on. My fees are going to be the same. If my fees were different, I would need to go into my closing costs details, make my modification. Always apply to loan if you ever make changes in your fees. Now I'm going to move to the monthly cost and remove my monthly MI. That's how simple it was to create that second product. And let's do that again for our third product. So if we advance the screen, you would have clicked on Add New Loan Product, add your title, and use that Copy From button again. So if I use that Copy From, chose my monthly MI because my rate's the same versus my lender paid MI, chose that, mark upfront premium as single, because this will trigger in our next screen that single premium drop-down line. In the next screen, that triggers your single premium field or FHA upfront MI or VA funding fee. So you would just open up this premium field and then place that whatever amount it is for that single premium. And this is where you can add it to the loan amount. And then moving on, I have my monthly costs. So let's remove that MI, and I'm done. So with that, it was really quick once you develop one product, using that copy from feature and carrying it over. And if you're working with an API that possibly you want to show different down payments because you can only send one style of down payment, it's always great. Send one product over from your Optimal Blue or whatever API you use, and then use that copy from feature really quick to develop your other 2 and 3 products. So now I'm showing an 80-10-10. So with that, you could see how with this product, I have the same information, but I put 20% down in this particular case. I'm going to have a second lien that's going to cover that 10%. So I have 4.5 and 360. I have my fees, my monthly cost. You'll see that I removed that mortgage insurance. But the difference is the lower, the very last field, it's asking, do I include a second lien? And yes, I do. So once I mark that yes, as I advance my screen, I'm now collecting data for a second lien. So I put in my 10%, which was $35,000. I'm using 5.5% interest rate and a 240 term. Just something simple. If you have fees, the next screen will allow you to place fees for that second lien. And then we're done with all our products. So now we're in our analysis summary screen, and this is where that short-term number of months are. So you can see how I have it at 60 months for the short term and 15 years for the long term. Your property appreciation rate field is here, and this is where you would go ahead and change it. Down in the lower right where I show total interest and MI paid, you could see where I can show total net worth or total principal paid. So this is where you could change it on your presentation to be able to show different items in that long-term area. We're going to come back to the screen shortly, and then we're going to go ahead and work with the short-term months as well as our reinvestment strategy. So let's move on really quick just to finish out the presentation. Here's where you put in your contact information. And the next screen, you'll see that I have all my products listed at the very bottom. You'll notice that the box for the 80-10-10 is not marked. This excludes displaying this product from my presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it, and now we'll have all 4 products display. Make sure you put payment notes in, something like estimated taxes and insurance are part of your payment compliance piece. It's also an area you can add any additional information. So I'm just going to put that in there. There we go. And you'll see on the presentation where this information also displays. Now we're done with the presentation. I'm just hovering my mouse over presentation and going directly to preview. Add your quote date by opening up that calendar and marking the date for your rates. And then let's preview the presentation. So now we have our 4 products side by side, the 80-10-10, the single premium, lender paid MI, and monthly MI. So with that, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and split screens so we can work with Edge Live a little bit and dive into our reinvestment strategy. So for right now, let me go ahead and remove that 80-10-10 product. I just want to show you how it can be displayed, and we'll talk about it in a moment, and how I just unchecked it. I advanced my screen for the save, and you'll see how my product will open up. It's just been removed from my report, and let's go ahead and put this side by side, and let's talk about Edge Live and talk about that reinvestment strategy. So what I'm going to do is go into my presentation, bring up my preview, but I also want to point out the Generate Link button. The Generate Link button will provide you the link to your presentation and also allows you to record video from your desktop. So now what I'm doing is opening up a new page. I just pasted the link to the presentation in that page. And you'll see this is how the borrower sees it. If they clicked it on a desktop, this is what they'd view, and they would have to click I understand to view the presentation. So let me show you what the difference is between a borrower's presentation and the loan officer's presentation. So moving our presentation side by side, you can see how they look exactly the same, except if you look at the very bottom center. The very bottom center on the loan officer's presentation has a clear all button. So let's just show you how I highlighted my monthly MI column. If I wanted to clear out all those highlights at one time, I press clear all button and it will clear out my highlights, not only on my copy, but you saw how it removed it from the from the borrower's copy. So when I work with Edge Live and you're talking to your clients, say you're discussing that interest rate and you're highlighting each field, you'll notice on the right-hand side that borrower's copy, it's highlighting as well. You are driving the presentation for the borrower. So if you go into the more info, you could see how it opens up the more information, data. You could talk about the payment breakdown. You could highlight fees, And you can see how I drove the presentation. The borrower now has the payment summary section open. It has their payment breakdown highlighted. You could go into the closing costs. You can point out the single premium for the single premium product, as well as discuss any fees. So you can see how it's really unique and be able to drive that presentation for the borrower. But not only that is you can communicate and change data as well. So what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about the 60 months. So in that long-term area, we want to be able to, the borrower saying, well, let's see what it's like in 8 years or 7 years. I plan to be moving after that. So what we could do is log into your Edge account. And I'm going to go into my analysis screen. Let's open this. It's a little small for you. So with that, they want to see the short-term analysis months at a different time period. So what I could do is put in 84 months. And remember, anytime you make a change in any screen, you just need to move out of that screen for it to save. So I used my arrows to make it easy. And now let's look at that presentation. It will now change from 60 months, it just did, to 84. So now if we look at our presentation, it's still that lender-paid MI is the highest cost loan. You can see how I'm highlighting, and you can see how I can't highlight because that's the borrower's copy. But you can see the difference, and this is how you'd be able to explain it to your borrower. So you could take a look at to see which is the better product at the 84th month, or say they plan to move in 3 years. You can also change it down. If you're working on refinances, by changing the number of months field, you can also find the break-even point. And you don't have to go directly out to the presentation. You can see that information down in the lower left-hand corner. So let's take a look at our presentation. And at 36 months, you can see the savings still over the single premium. It's just $1,663, and that monthly MI is $1,443. So there's only a couple $100 in savings there. So you can see how you can move that and really discuss and hold those goals with the borrower. Another thing to be able to discuss is the freedom point, and this is where we're going to dive into the reinvestment strategy. So with that, if we go back to Edge and go back, we're in the analysis summary screen right here, and click on that adjust reinvestment strategy. So we're going to do a couple options first, and we're going to keep it really simple, and then we'll keep diving into it to show you all the different things you can do with the reinvestment. So you can see at the very top you have your monthly savings. It's showing me $27.29 for my lender-paid MI. Single premium, I have $191. I want to make these payments apples to apples. And to do so, I'm placing in that monthly savings. That additional $27.29 that's being applied toward principal has reduced it 1 year in payment. So the freedom point instead of 30 years is now 29. Let's apply that $191.63. We apply that amount, and now we have a freedom point of 24.17. So with that, we're using the same monthly payment, but we're just adding the same savings toward principal to be able to show the borrower apples to apples payments. So let's go out to our presentation and take a look. I press OK. I advance my screen because remember that triggers the save. And now you'll notice in the summary, we have a reduction payment line, and we show that monthly amount. Not only with that, we also have our freedom points. So you can see, show them by applying that additional money toward principal, how much sooner they would have that loan paid off. Also, you can show them if they want the security of having a 30-year loan, but they really want to pay it off in 15, you could show them that dollar amount, and you can show them their freedom point. So now let's go into the More Info button and look at what the reinvestment strategy looks like on the presentation. So you can see with the reduction payment, there's the dollar amount, and also the Freedom Point. But the one thing we haven't taken account of is the mortgage insurance that drops from your first product, the monthly MI. How do you reinvest that MI once it's dropped from the loan? So now let's go back into Edge and let's take a look. In the reinvestment strategy, whoops, let's go into that screen. To reinvest mortgage insurance or to do, say, a lump sum payment, what you would do is double click on that field. So I'm double clicking on the reduction payment field, and you'll see at the very base of that screen, it tells you when the last MI payment was made. So at month 84, I no longer have mortgage insurance, and I want to reinvest that $191. So I go up to my first line, a number of months, put in 84, and then you could go ahead and put in that dollar amount. This now will take $191 every month and apply it to principal. So let's take a look at what that does. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And that has reduced the Freedom Point down to 26.08 years. So it does reduce that by reinvesting that MI. So now we have these all as apples to apples. We have the monthly savings accounted for as well as the MI that was dropped. Also, if you don't or the borrower doesn't want to see it as going toward principal, or if you're working with a financial planner, you can always place that in the savings or an investment balance account. With the investment balance, you could start with the balance if they already have an account. You could place the interest rate and then the monthly amount that you could want to apply. So you have that, and then I also want to show one more thing with the reinvestment strategy. If you have borrowers that haven't sold their home yet, and or maybe they'll have a bonus, they know they have a chunk of change to be able to apply toward their principal, say within 12 months. So let me show you on this, on the 80-10-10 product. I'm double clicking just like I did when I reinvested mortgage insurance. So say at month 12, I wanted to apply $100,000 toward principal. I do it simply by identifying the month, identifying the dollar amount. But I need to make sure I'm not adding $100,000 every month, so I want to add a new line item. So at month 13, I'm clearing out how much is going to principal, and I place in a 0. Once I'm done, I press OK, and then it will go ahead and adjust that Freedom Point. So you can see how not only can you reinvest just simple savings, I showed you how you could reinvest mortgage insurance, as well as being able to do a lump sum payment. So now let's go ahead and take a look at our presentation. And let's click on our More Info button. Go to our reinvestment, and it hasn't just updated. Go ahead. You'll see that on this monthly MI, the one that we reinvested MI, it now is labeled custom. And when you click on the More Info and you go into that reinvestment strategy, you then have the button to show them what you have done. So, being able to say at month 84, I reinvested your mortgage insurance toward principal at $191.93. So you'll be able to see that amount, be able to display that for the borrower. With that, that is the end of today's presentation regarding MI and reinvestment strategy. If you have any, okay, which part, Molly, that you want to see? I'm sure it's on the reinvestment. And if you have any other questions, just like, okay, perfect, that cut the MI. If anyone else has any questions, this is the time. Go ahead and I can show you, just place it in the question area. So Molly, if you go to Edge and you're in that analysis screen, you want to click on Adjust Reinvestment Strategy. And what I had done is reinvest the mortgage insurance on my first product. And the way to do it is you would just double click on that field. So I double clicked, and that's when I had a reduction payment schedule. At the very bottom here, it tells what month no longer has MI, and it also tells the dollar amount that was last paid. So I entered 84, and I put in the dollar amount. Once you press OK, it will then apply $191 for the remainder. Yes, and so let me go ahead and let me just do one-on-one that's empty. This is how it will display it. We always provide it with the first month and a 0. So what I would do is, like on that other one, it had said 84. I would just change the 1 to 84 and place in that dollar amount. Whoops. Perfect. Also, you can change it up too. Say you want to add another line. Say they know maybe at 120 month they're going to be applying 250, and then 250 takes over for the remainder of the loan. So with that, great questions. Any other questions that anyone has? Go ahead and place it in the question area, and we'll go ahead and we'll answer that. And remember that we do have the help button. So always remember you could click on help. Perfect. And this is where it goes to the recordings. So if you click on help, this is a quick way, and it's our coaching call archive right there. If you click on coaching archive, you'll have it listed, and there's all the Tuesday coaching calls as well as our Thursday trainings. So you'll see it posted right there. Okay, any other questions that you have at this time and I can answer? Even if it's on a different particular presentation, if you have a question, I could go ahead and answer it then, or do those. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just put it on mute for a moment and give you some time to put in some questions, and I'll come back and answer those. For everyone that attended this call, thank you very much. And if there's something that you want to see and learn, please email us at support@Mortgage Coach, so we'd be able to show that on our Thursday training. Also, if you have any questions or just want your links reviewed, please just send them to support@mortgagecoach.com, and we'll review those, make sure the data is correct, and if you want us to review your video, we could do so as well. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in, so thank you very much for attending our training, and let us know, email us at support how we'll be able to assist you in creating these presentations, and if there's particular presentations you want to see, let us know. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your week.